Okay, good morning to everybody again. Thank you for being here in this webinar. We will begin right now, but before beginning, I would like to welcome everybody. This is the conference that we were going to talk about, the Cartagena Protocol. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Maria de Lourdes Torres. I have a PhD in plant molecular biology. Currently, I am professor and researcher at Universidad San Francisco de Quito in Ecuador, and I'm also working as a regional advisor in the BCH project by UNEP. For me, it's a pleasure to have all of you in this conference, and I hope that we can create a nice conversation and that all your questions can be clarified during this conference. Before beginning, I would like to also to welcome Ileana and Ernesto Ocampo, Giovanni Ferraiolo. First, Ileana is she's coordinating all this project at international level. So please, Ileana, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Maria de Lourdes. Welcome, everybody. We appreciate your kind participation. My name, as Maria de Lourdes had explained, is Ileana Lopez. I am in charge of the project for continued enhancements of building capacity for effective participation in the Biosafety Clearinghouse. And today we are holding a webinar that is called Introduction to the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. And we are very happy to join us here, and I give you the most happy welcome since Nairobi. Thank you.
Thank you, Ileana. So now I'll give the floor to Giovanni Ferraiolo, the person in charge of the BCH.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Maria. This is Giovanni Ferraiolo from Montreal. -20 today if you want to join the cold of Canadian winter here. Apart from that, everything is going fine. We're very happy to have to participate to this webinar, and we are here to answer any question you may have from the Secretariat point of view. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Giovanni. Also, Ernesto, who's also one of the regional coordinators of the BCH project.
Hello, good morning to everybody. I'm Ernesto Ocampo. I'm a regional specialist coordinating the activities in Latin America and the Caribbean, and also in charge of the development and publishing of the BCH education materials on these webinars, among them. So I'm the person to contact for any issues about the webinars, and also the person to blame for the issues that we have yesterday. So we apologize again for that. So welcome to everybody, and let's go to the webinar.
Okay, so before going to the topic of this webinar, I hope everybody is seeing my screen. Just a few indications how your screen works. First, here, I hope you are seeing, as I told already, what I am projecting from my computer, and here is your panel. So there are some important things that maybe you have to be aware of. First, if you go to the view, please unmark this option in order that your panel, you can be always using this panel. Also, it's important that you get used to all these signs here, but I would like to emphasize this button, because with this you can raise your hand if you have some questions during the webinar, and also you have here you will have the question part where you can write your question, and also your questions will be answered during this webinar. Just a small rule, during the conference, when I finish some of the topics that we're going to see, I will ask if somebody has any questions, and then, or in order just to say to follow the webinar, you can ask your questions. I'm not sure if everybody is seeing my screen. So now, are you seeing my screen? I hope. I think there's some problems here. Okay, I hope now everybody is seeing my screen. Okay, so going to the webinar. First, just already Ernesto and Ileana talk about the objective of the BCH project, but just that everybody has cleared this. The objective of the BCH project phase 2 is to continue assisting eligible countries in strengthening national capacities to effectively access and use the BCH, promoting regional and sub-regional collaboration, networking, and exchange of experience for national and regional BCH management. This project has several components, and in this webinar I would like to highlight the component number 2, which has to deal with one of the very important products of this project, that is the training materials. Today you can find these training materials in 5 UN languages: Arabic, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. This is very important.
Sorry, Maria.
Yeah, yes. Go ahead.
Sorry, Maria. Just a second. I think the screen is not being updated.
Okay.
Project screen. Yes, that's okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ernesto. So as I was telling, one of the main products of the BCH project phase 2 is the development of these training materials. Ernesto has helped us in creating this virtual learning environment, which is, as you can see, you can enter to this environment using this address. And when you go to the Moodle BCH CVD, you can access the training materials. For using this environment, this learning environment, you have to be registered. Maybe some of you are already registered, and you have also have seen what this learning environment has. But if any of you is not registered until now, please send an email to the following address: moodle@bch2project.org, and please send your full name and country, and you will receive a mail with the username and the password, and after that you will access this learning environment. Just to show you quickly how this environment looks like, just a sec. Then here, so as you see, if you enter the Moodle,
Sorry, Maria.
okay, so go ahead, Ernesto.
Again, the screen is not.
I don't know what's happening.
Sorry.
Now, can you see my screen?
Now it updated. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Now it's okay.
Okay. I don't know what's happened. Please.
I will advise you on the chat panel. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So as I was telling you, if you enter this address, you will go to the Biosafety and Clearinghouse Project Phase 2 learning environment, and as you see here, you need your username and a password, and then you will have to log in. Until you receive this information, if you are not a registered person, you can log in as a guest, and after logging in, you will see this screen, and in these squares you have the training materials in the different languages. So you can enter and access all the training materials using this learning environment. Okay, so just so now we will go to the main topic of our webinar, which is the Cartagena Protocol. Just a small question to Ernesto.
Perdón, todavía.
Okay, Giovanni, please, you have the floor.
No, es que todavía sorry, the screen is not yet.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, now we are on the main page, the Biosafety clearing guides.
What did you do recently?
I am just clicking the show my screen, but
Yeah, okay. Just select show my screen clean.
clean.
And let's try that way. Yeah. Let's try that way.
Okay, now can you see my screen?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. The problem is
Okay.
that when you advance the
Okay, now
it's not changing. Did you change the slide?
now out.
Yeah, it's changing now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's talk about the Cartagena Protocol. Some of the topics that we are going to see during this webinar is first the background that gives place to the protocol, and also what's the purpose of this protocol and how this protocol works. Some key elements. After the webinar, I will be very glad if some of you really have a good comprehension of some of these topics. The first one is the Advanced Informed Agreement procedure, which is one of the procedures that establish this protocol for living modified organisms that will be used for intentional introduction into the environment. The second element, which is very important for us that you really get a good understanding, is what the protocol says for LMOs that will be used for direct use as food, feed, or processing. And of course, also the protocol establishes the BCH, this information sharing, and the biosafety clearinghouse, and it's important that you can have an introduction of which type of information you can find in this BCH and how you can use this data. So we are going to be talking about living modified organisms, and for us maybe it's important that we have a clear definition of what is this type of organism. We are following the definition that you can find also in the text of the protocol. And a living modified organism is any living organism that possesses a novel combination of genetic material obtained through the use of modern biotechnology. We will be talking about the BCH, but I think it's important that you can just have a quick view of what you can find in the BCH. And that's why if you go to the BCH portal and you and you go to finding information and you go to LMOs, you will have, although I think now this information, okay, I have a small problem. Just very quick, I will do this. If you go to LMOs here, if it works, and you do a very quick search, a complete list of all the LMOs that are registered in the BCH you can find, and then you can see just right now maize, canola, soybean, rice, and if you enter all these registers, then you can find more detailed information about all these LMOs. So let's go back to our presentation. Okay, so what was the origin of the protocol? First, the protocol was born in the context of the Convention on Biological Diversity. In the text of the convention, you can find in Article 8 the next text: to establish or maintain means to regulate manage, or control the risk associated with the use and release of LMOs resulting from biotechnology, which are likely to have adverse environmental impacts that could affect the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity, taking also into account the risk to human health. In addition, in Article 19.3, it says the parties shall consider the need for a protocol setting out appropriate procedures, including, in particular, advance informed agreement in the field of the safe transfer, handling, and use of LMOs resulting from biotechnology. So these articles were the platform to establish this protocol. The Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety is an international agreement. It's a treaty concluded and adopted in the framework, as I already said, of the Convention on Biological Diversity. This protocol was adopted in January 2000 and entered into force on September 11, 2003. Until January of this year, 2013, 164 countries are parties to this protocol. Just some information how this protocol works and how every country that is a party of it can work with this protocol. There are these meetings of all the parties of all the countries that are part of the protocol nowadays every 2 years. As you can see, until now there has been 6 COP MOPs, the last one in 2012 in Hyderabad, India. In these COP MOPs, as I already told, the parties come together and analyze how the protocol is being implemented in all the countries and the suggestions, the changes that can be made in order that this protocol every time is optimized. How does the Cartagena Protocol work? In general terms, as a treaty, it sets out general obligations and principles that are applicable to all LMOs. It also establishes specific rules and procedures that are applicable to the transboundary movements of specific categories of LMOs, understanding that a transboundary movement is the action that when an LMO leaves a country and enters to another country. The protocol also establishes institutional arrangements for the administration, oversight, and future evolution of the protocol. And it makes provisions for capacity building and financial resources to assist developing countries and countries with economies in transition to implement the protocol. For example, one of these capacity building activities are the activities that have been developed in the BCH project. It's important that we understand the objective of this protocol, which is stressed in Article 1 that says, the objective of this protocol is to contribute to ensuring an adequate level of protection in the field of the safe transfer, handling, and use of living modified organisms resulting from the modern biotechnology that may have adverse effects on the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity, taking also into account risk to human health and specifically focusing on transboundary movements, as I already said. It's also interesting that people that has to work with this protocol understand the scope of it, which is defined in Article 4. This protocol shall apply to the transboundary movement, transit, handling, and use of all living modified organisms that may have adverse effects on the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity. So, we have to have clear that this protocol applies mainly, as I always says, this protocol has like two main chapters. The one dealing with LMOs that will be used for intentional introduction into the environment, and the other very important chapter are LMOs that will be used for direct use as food, feed, or processing. And I will try to explain how these two chapters are implemented in the Cartagena Protocol. Before going to the procedures, it's also important to notice what Article 5 establishes. It says, protocol shall not apply to the transboundary movement of living modified organisms which are pharmaceuticals for humans that are addressed by other relevant international agreements or organizations. So this will be an exception where the protocol is not do not apply. So before beginning talking about the Advanced Informed Agreement, I would like to see if any of you have any questions. So please, if you have any question, please raise your hands or write a questions. So I can't see any hand raised. Okay, Samia, I'll give you the floor. So please go ahead. Samia, are you hearing me? You have your hand raised. Samia, are you hearing me? Samia, is everybody hearing me? Ernesto, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
so
I can hear you, Ileana.
Okay, thank you.
I see that Samia has an unanswered question. Maybe you have a question from her in the chat window.
I can see that. Okay. Okay, Samia, you can write down your question if you don't have the microphone. So if you have any question, please write it down. Okay. Maybe any other participant that has any question until now? Okay. So if there's no questions, and I will be waiting for Samia's question. Okay, Georgie, I would like to see your question. I can access Georgie's question. Georgie, can you use your mic? If you have any question, please. Okay, so okay, so I will continue and afterwards I will go back to your questions. So talking about the application of the Advanced Informed Agreement, this procedure you can find in Article 7 in the Cartagena Protocol. The Advanced Informed Agreement procedure is developed also in Articles 8 to 10 and 12 of the Cartagena Protocol, and it's very important to remember that this procedure shall apply prior to the first, that's very important, prior to the first intentional transboundary movement of living modified organisms for intentional introduction into the environment of the party of import. This means that the party of import is notified about the proposed import, receives full information about the LMO and its intended use, and assess the risk associated with the LMO and then decide whether or not to allow the import. As you can see in this figure, there are some steps that you may follow when using these procedures. First, the notification. There has to be a communication between the exporter country and the importer country. So the exporter sends a notification to the importing country, and this country has up to 90 days to make this acknowledged reception. So the importing country has 90 days to review the information sent by the exporter country and see if they can begin with the risk assessment. After this reception of the information sent by the exporter, the importer country has up to 270 days to make a decision. This decision will be the approving of the import, prohibiting the import, and during this process, if there is any request of additional information, the importer country has the right to ask for it. So just as an example, if let's say in day number 120 there is any question, this process stops until the exporter country clarifies the questions and send information asked by the importer. So this time frame of 270 days can be longer if there is a need of further information. After the decision is taken by the importing country, this decision has to be reported to the BCH. There are some exceptions to the Advanced Informed Agreement. This does not apply to LMOs in transit, to LMOs destined for contained use. It's not applied for LMOs intended for direct use as food, feed, or processing. As I already said, the protocol establishes other procedures for this type of LMOs, but no the Advanced Informed Agreement. And for this procedure, there are also excluded LMOs that can be agreed in COP/MOPS decisions. Until now, there is no COP decision that has excluded any LMOs, but maybe in the future. So this is mainly the way it works, these Advanced Informed Agreement procedures. This is very important that everybody has clear for what this procedure is used. So again, I will be very happy if any of you have any question about this procedure. Ernesto, are you hearing me? I have a problem. I cannot see the questions from the participants. I don't know why. The greeting one, the one that
I don't see any questions, but probably.
Yeah, but it's just the organizer who has
okay.
the questions window.
Yeah, because I can see that some of Isa and Georgie.
Is anybody raising the hand?
No, I don't see that anybody is raising their hands, but I see that some people have written questions, but I don't know what's happening. I can't access these ones.
Can you right click on over the names or over the question mark?
Okay.
To see if you can open the
okay.
window. Or double click over the name.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
Are you working with your Mac?
No, I'm working with a PC. Okay,
So I have questions to both AIs here
okay.
regarding this procedure under Article 7. Maybe Giovanni can help us. So this is important that the Article 7 and this procedure, advanced procedure, just applies to the first introduction to the environment of an LMO. Is that correct, Giovanni? What happens with LMOs that have already been introduced into the environment, for example, before the Cartagena Protocol enters into force for a country?
So please, Giovanni, you have the floor.
Sorry.
May I repeat the question? Hello,
Yes,
Giovanni?
please.
Okay, regarding the Article 7...
Ernesto, sorry, I was not able to hear your question.
Okay, I will repeat it. Regarding the Article 7 and the AFP procedure, Maria has just told us that it applies just to the first introduction to the environment of an LMO. What happens with LMOs that have been already introduced into the environment in a country before the Cartagena Protocol has entered into force for that country?
Thank you, Ernesto. The COP-MOP, several COP-MOP actually, starting from the first one, the COP-MOP 1, clearly established that there is a request to parties to input in the BCH, to register in the BCH, also the decisions that were approved before the entry into force of the protocol. Of course, for those decisions, there is an obligation, but it's because it's a COP-MOP decision and COP-MOP request, parties are also requested to comply with this type of subscription. Basically, the BCH there is no it's not intended to be so much a legal register, but more to be a register where you can find information and help country to do that. So even if you have an obligation, all countries are warmly invited to register this information in the BCH. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you, Giovanni. I could see the questions written by the participants. Samia, for the moment, this webinar is here, as you already are hearing, in English. Maybe in the future we can organize a webinar in French. So maybe Ernesto and Ileana can answer this question.
Yes, we will develop this webinar in French soon. You will be notified.
Okay, thank you, Ernesto. Another question, maybe in your panel you see that your mic is, you cannot talk when you want, but if you raise your hand, I will make the mic available and you can ask any questions. So if you have any questions at any moment, please raise your hand. We will be very glad to hear from any questions that the participant has. Okay, so I will go further in this conference. So just to make a small wrap up, we already see what the Advanced Informal Agreement deal with, and now we will enter the next big chapter about the LMOs that will be used for direct use as food, feed, or processing. This information you can find in Article 11, and that what's very important of this article is that what the protocol establishes, and it says a party that makes a final decision regarding domestic use, including placing on the market of an LMO that may be subject to a transboundary movement for direct use as food, feed, or processing, shall, within 15 days of making that decision, inform the parties through the BCH. So very important. For this type of LMOs, what the protocol is establishing is that a party make a decision following their domestic regulations, and after making a decision, this decision has to be communicated through the BCH in the next 15 days after the decision was taken. For this means, the protocol is also asking the countries, the parties, that they shall make available to the Biosafety Clearinghouse copies of any national laws, regulations, and guidelines applicable to the import of this type of LMOs. Very important, in Article 11.6, it says that in the absence of a domestic regulatory framework and in exercise of its domestic jurisdiction, a country can declare through the BCH that its decision prior to the first import of a living modified organism intended for direct use as food or feed or for processing will be taken according to the following. First, a risk assessment undertaken in accordance with the information found in Annex 3 of the protocol, and after this risk assessment, a decision made within a predictable time frame not exceeding 270 days. Okay, this article is, the protocol is aware that many countries until now does not have yet a biosafety framework. In these cases, if they want to access this type of LMOs, they can follow these 2 points, this risk assessment following the information asked in Annex 2 and a decision taken in 270 days. This is not mandatory for the protocol. What is mandatory is to take a decision in this type of LMOs and to communicate this decision to through the BCH. This part, this 11.6, is in case countries does not have any domestic regulations and want to use this this procedure. Sometimes these articles make the countries have some, they are not sure what they have to do with this. So this is very important to have clear, and that's why I also would like to see if any of you have any questions of this issue. So if you have any question, please raise your hand. Okay, I don't. So Giovanni, maybe you would like to add something to this topic.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, actually, this is an extremely important paragraph in or provision in the protocol, and so far has been used very rarely. If I remember well, there are only 2 countries in the world that have applied this provision. The important things to understand is that if you are a country without a regulatory framework, that means you have not established your legislation in biosafety, everything that is registered on the BCH under Article 11, that means any LMO that is commercialized for food, feed, and processing, may reach your country without you being advised, without you being informed. If you wish to regulate, although you don't have yet a regulatory framework, this is your only option that you have, basically. Of course, you can take action on a case-by-case situation, but Article 11.6 allows you to place your country in a sort of safe mode. That means that even under Article 11, that means LMO for food, feed, and processing, your country should be informed, and a risk assessment and a decision will be needed in order to commercialize this LMO. If your country did not take this opportunity, Article 11 is valid for all countries in the world, and therefore not having a regulatory framework, expose your country to all type of commercialization without your country having the possibility to take a real decision about that. So once again, it's extremely important that countries consider, without the domestic regulatory framework, consider the possibility to use Article 11.6 by placing just a declaration in the BCH that the country intends to use this specific provision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Giovanni. I don't see any questions, so I hope everything is clear. Please do not hesitate to raise your hand and ask any questions you have. So in this slide, just to conclude, we would like to establish the difference between these two procedures that I already explained. The first one, the Advanced Informed Agreement. Remember, this procedure is for LMOs that will be introduced intentionally to the environment, and this is more like a bilateral procedure. The exporter country, the importer country, after the risk analysis, will take a decision, and this decision will be informed to the BCH. And the other one, procedure for the LMOs that will be used as food, feed, or processing, is more like a multilateral information exchange mechanism centered on the BCH. This means a country takes a decision of this type of LMOs, informs through the BCH this decision, and the other countries will be informed about the decision made by another country. Another articles that we would also like to highlight during this conference is what is established in Article 12, which is review of decisions. This is a very interesting article because, you know, biotechnology is changing every day, and this helps the parties to review and change a decision. And also, and in both parts, a country of import or a country of export can review a decision and make a change. So this article is very important to have clear. Article 15, which deals with risk assessment. Risk assessment undertaken in the scope of this protocol shall be carried out in a scientifically sound manner in accordance with the information that you can find in Annex 3 of the protocol. So for the protocol, it's also very important that the decisions are made using scientifically information. Another very important article is Article 17, which deal with unintentional transboundary movement. This means, what is an unintentional transboundary movement? Of course, a movement of an LMO that was not planned. For this, you have maybe to think about some accidents that can occur, and then in this example, you can see a party that released the LMO unintentionally, and a party that can be potentially affected by this release. If such a thing happens, there has to be a notification. The party that released the LMO has to notify the potentially affected party and has to tell the quantities, the characteristics, the day of the unintentional release, the circumstances, and the possible risk. After this notification, of course, a process begins of consultation for determining the appropriate responses, including emergency measures, to establish agreed solutions and to develop a joint plan of action. So for this, it's very important that the countries, as we will see in a few minutes, establish national focal points for these emergency cases. I will talk about the national focal points in a few minutes. Okay, so when a country ratifies international treaty has some obligations. In the case of the protocol, upon the ratification of it, the party must designate these national focal points. There are 3 types of national focal points. The one that is responsible for the protocol, that is like the representative of the country of the protocol and communicates to the protocol secretariat. The national focal points responsible of the Biosafety clearinghouse. And the third one is these national focal points for unintentional transboundary movements. Again, just example, using the BCH, if you go to the BCH and you, in finding information, you look for national contacts, and I just make an example using Honduras as the country. I would like to know the national focal points. Then very quickly you can find that Honduras has 2 national focal points. First, this Carlos Almendares, which actually is the national focal point for the BCH and also for the protocol, and another person, Jose Luis Matamoros, which is the national focal points for emergency measures. So this is very important that the countries are aware that upon ratification they have to have these national focal points. Okay, so there are other articles which are dealing with important issues, like, for example, Article 13, which is talks about a simplified procedures. I would like to recall that the Advanced Informed Agreement is used prior to the first transboundary movement of a specific LMOs. If a country wants to import again the same LMO, then the country does not have to do again all these procedures, these Advanced Informed Agreement procedures. It can go to a simplified procedures, and Article 13 describes how these procedures can be made. Another interesting article is Article 18, which is about the handling, transport, packaging, and identification of LMOs. If you review the Article 18, you will see that you have a guide of which information has to accompany the LMOs that will arrive to your country. It depends of the use of it, which information has to be available in this transportation. Article 27 is about liability and redress. This issue has a great discussion in the scope of the protocol, and the end of these deliberations was the adoption of a supplementary protocol on liability and redress. This supplementary protocol to the Cartagena Protocol has not entered into force until now. The countries are in the process of analyzing if they ratify or not this new supplementary protocol. As I say already, this supplementary protocol is trying to establish some regulations in the scope of liability and redress. For us and for the project, of course, Article 20 is, and of course also for the protocol and for the implementation of the protocol, Article 20 is very important because it is establishing the BCH. The BCH was established mainly for these 2 goals: to facilitate the exchange of scientific, technical, environmental, and legal information on and experience with LMOs, and to assist parties to implement the protocol, taking into account the special needs of developing countries' parties. So, to have a very strong BCH, of course, it's important the contribution of every party. So, every party has to make available some information through the BCH Information such as national laws and regulations, national contacts, countries' decisions, LMO's risk assessment, regional, bilateral, and multilateral agreements, upon others. So if every country contributes with this information, the BCH will have updated data that help the countries to make informed decisions. So I think that was what I have to tell you. I am very happy that you have participated in this conference, and before closing it, of course, I would like to see if any of you have any questions, whatever information that you want to share with us, it's very welcome. So please, if you have any question. I'm seeing Joseph. Did Joseph raise your hand? No? Okay, Yamila, Ileana, thank you. But first, I would like to give the floor to Yamila. Yamila, you have your mic. You can use your mic. Yamila. Yamila, can you hear me? Can you make your question, please? You have the floor. Yamila, can you hear me? Can you ask your question? Okay, I think there are some problems there. I can't hear Yamila, so maybe you can try again, Yamila. Try to use your mic. Okay, I can't hear anything. So maybe Ileana, you like to take the floor, so please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all the participants, and I would like to invite you at this time, if at least 3 of you would like to share with us, if is this a presentation of some use for your professional or whatever career that you are currently conducting, and if how you see the presentation, and we will dearly appreciate any comments, positive or any feedback that will be from you for the project. Thank you so much. Please feel free and in confidence. This is very important for us to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ileana. So, if somebody would like to take the floor, please let me know. Yamila, if you got some problems with your mic, maybe you can write down your questions. Okay, I am reading one of your questions, which says, what form of communication between Belarus, the party of Cartagena Protocol, and Russia, for example, which is not a party of the protocol, from the point of view that Belarus, Russia can have the common custom border? Okay, if I understand clearly these questions, you are asking about what happens if a party is making a transboundary movement with a country which is not part of the protocol. For answering these questions, first I would like to give the floor to Giovanni. So Giovanni, did you hear the question?
No, sorry, Maria, can you repeat again?
So there's a question dealing what happens when there is going to be a transboundary movement between a party that is part of the protocol with a country which is not part of the protocol.
Yes, thank you. So there is a specific article in the Cartagena Protocol that is, sorry, I need to find it, that deals with the relationship between parties and non-parties. And basically the idea is that a party is requested to deal with non-party in a way that is fully in line with the Cartagena Protocol and with the regional, with the national framework that has established. Now this means that while a non-party do not have obligation, the party itself, sorry, is Article 24, I was looking for it, the party that deals with the non-party has to behave or to deal with the non-party exactly in the same way. That means in a way that is consistent with the obligation of the protocol. This may not be exactly the same way, but once again, it means that a party has to take a decision based on a risk assessment, and that still a party has to inform of this decision the BCH independently if it's dealing with a party or non-party. And once the Article 24 also requests the parties to try to make this to convince basically the non-party to become part of the protocol itself. So the obligation is fully on the parties, and even when dealing with non-parties, still stands in terms of consistency with the protocol. Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanni. There is another question that says that what happens with the pollen if the pollen is blown by the wind and arrives to another country and make an hybridation with the plants in the other country, if that can be considered an unintentional movement, transboundary movement. So Giovanni, you have the floor.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, of course. I mean, and this is a case of unintentional transboundary movement. That means that the party is not a party that is dealing with an LMO is not intentionally moving this LMO toward another party, but this organism through its pollen, for example, is moved through the border and cross the border and goes to in the territory of another party. This type of movement, that is called unintentional, is regulated by Article 17 and require that the party that is aware about this movement, although unintentional, inform immediately a contact person that is identified in the BCH, specifically for request of Article 17. In the BCH, you will find for each country a contact person, a contact person for emergency measure under Article 17, that is the person to be informed in in the country where this unintentional transboundary movement is possibly bringing this LMO in whatever type of form. A pollen is just one of the possibility, but I mean you can have an unintentional movement of different cases. In any case, the party that is aware about this movement, independently if it's responsible or not, has to inform the contact person listed under the BCH under the Article 17 about this movement, so that emergency measure may be taken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Giovanni. I see that Joseph has a question, so Joseph, I'll give you the floor. Joseph, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Am I ahead? Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Please go ahead.
Okay, good. I have two simple questions. I'm wondering how a release of LMO can be deemed unintentional, and can you explain a bit about that? And my second question is, can there not be a collusion between scientists or scientific organizations to hide vital information on LMOs? Looking at recent collisions that happen around, like the Lance Armstrong case, where big influential organizations can influence anything in the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Just a small clarification. The second question is clear about if the scientists can hide information, but the first question, can you repeat the first question, please?
The first question is how do we deem a release into an environment as unintentional?
Okay, first I would like to answer the second question, and then I'll give the floor to Giovanni to answer the first questions. You know, it's very difficult to know if there is some results of research that can be hidden by somebody. There's a lot of research and information about LMOs, and that is one of the challenges of doing a risk assessment, to have the appropriate sources to find information and to access if there are potential risks or not of releasing a LMO in a specified country. So I can say that nowadays we have a lot of information about LMOs, and that is of course a challenge of the authorities or the group dealing with risk assessment to find the appropriate information and to see if this information is enough to arrive to a decision to whether use or not a specific LMO. So now, Giovanni, can you please help us with the first question of Joseph?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Joseph. I mean, if I understand well, your question is how to distinguish an intentional from unintentional transboundary movement. Am I correct?
Yes, Joseph don't have the mic anymore. So,
okay.
But I think.
Sorry. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that I mean, this is an international legal treaty that define things how they have to be dealt by country. Now, if a country take a decision about one specific organism, that is an intended decision. It's a legal decision that will carry on one intended release into the environment. If no decision is attached to that, we have to assume, at least the protocol assume, that there is no deliberate regulation, no a legal decision to do that. And therefore, the country is not either complying with the protocol or making a regular decision. Now, one unintentional release into the environment means that the country is not willing to release into the environment an LMO, but it's by chance or by hazard or in a different situation, it's releasing this in the environment. Poland, for example, migrating from one area where it was intended to stay to another, may be an unintended release. But then you may have different situation where there is unintended. I would say that generally speaking, although I'm not a lawyer, but I mean generally speaking, one intended release is backed up by a decision. I mean, if it's not backed up by a decision, this is not a legal release, and therefore it may be treated as unintended, or at least the protocol makes not the definition of unintended, if not when there is no will to release an LMO in that specific area. Is that clear? I hope so.
Okay, if you need further clarification, please raise your hand again. Thank you, Giovanni. Now I have a question from Fatima. Fatima, you have the floor.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go. Yes, I can hear you very well.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. I have a request and I had a question which was just answered by you, and the question was from the gentleman before me, I think is Joseph. I was hoping for an example of the unintentional LMOs that any country can get. Unfortunately, I was cut off many times due to connection problems. I was hoping that if I can get a record so I can of this conference if possible, so that I can understand everything that went on when I was cut off.
Yes, Fatima, this conference was recorded, so Ernesto will send you the information how you can access to the conference. So sorry about these cut-offs, but you will be able to hear again this webinar. I believe that Ernesto talked about an example of unintentional movements. So I think that question was answered. What Giovanni was saying is an unintentional movement can be, for example, if pollen goes from one country to another, and if the country is aware of that, then you have to communicate to the potentially affected country and to see what you can do and which process can you, which emergency measures can be taken. Okay, Fatima, I hope your answer is your question was answered, and I would like to see if any other participant has any other question. I don't see any more questions, so before closing the webinar, I would like to give the floor again to Ileana, to Giovanni, and to Ernesto. So please, Ileana.
Well, I am happy for the questions that have been raised, and I hope that you can take some reflection regarding these articles that have been explained by my colleague, Maria de Lourdes, with explanations of Giovanni and Ernesto. And if you feel like this is going to be a useful seminar for your organization or research institution, we will dearly appreciate if you can provide us some feedback. And thank you again for your participation, and I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ileana. Giovanni.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to all the participants. I would also like to appreciate very much this initiative. We think that through this it's possible to reach many more persons, and we encourage the UNITJEF project to continue to do this type of initiative and their participants to attend. And of course, we would like to hear very much the feedback about from the participants on this project. So I joined Ileana in asking all of you to send the UNE project and the BCH your feedback about this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giovanni. Ernesto, please, you have the floor.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for participating in this webinar. Maria, if you wish, I can show the participants where the webinar space are, so they can later go to that page and download the videos.
Okay, so I'll make you the presenter in just. I would like first. I would like also, before giving the floor again to Ernesto, that in order that he's able to show you this thing. For me, it's a great experience to be with you and to try to clarify some issues about the Cartagena Protocol. Thank you very much for joining us and for your participation and your questions. And if you have any further questions, you can also contact me, and I will be very glad to answer any question you have. So thank you very much for your participation, and now I'll give you the floor again to Ernesto. So Ernesto, now you can do that. Okay.
Can you make me a presenter? Okay. As Maria told at the beginning of this webinar, we have this virtual learning environment where all the BCH education materials are arranged in several different courses. The ones in the main page with the big banners are the ones that are public. You see on the right-hand side there is a link. Sorry, Maria, you see my screen?
Yes, I'm seeing your screen.
Okay, you see on the right-hand side you can see a link that is that says English webinars in this case, and there's another one in Spanish, and there will be soon another web page for the French webinars. When in the next couple of days we will upload the videos to these webinars. These pages look like this. Here we publish all the information related to each webinar that is being prepared to be deployed. So you have here all the register, as you receive them by email, and after this you will have a section like the ones that we already have in Spanish, where you can access the information and the presentations and the videos for the already done webinars. So everything will be available from here, and the same links will be included in the global courses. And
Sorry,
also from
Ernesto.
the BCH. Yes.
Ernesto, can I interrupt you? We are projecting in Spanish, but I don't know if the most of participants are English speaking.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much. Okay, and under this section here, there will be a section for the already done webinars, and you will be able to get the presentations and also the videos from the webinars. We will have this same Introduction to Cartagena Protocol webinar in French maybe next week or the other week, and later this very week we have a Spanish webinar of using the BCH for customs, and this will be done in English also around the first week of February. You will be notified of all the webinar schedules. You will see in these pages you have also the possibility of seeing the calendar. On the right hand side you see the calendar with all the activities that are planned and published by the Moodle, the virtual learning environment, and as said before, all the videos will be available also from the BCH help system, as all the BCH education materials are. So don't hesitate in contacting me for any kind of issues. I strongly recommend to test the connection before joining the webinars and test the microphone and speakers, so you have full access to the webinar. And okay, so thank you very much again for your participation, and I give the floor back to Maria.
Okay, thank you, Ernesto. So I think maybe one more chance if somebody has any further questions. As already Ileana, Giovanni, Ernesto told, we would be very glad about your feedback, and also if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. So I hope you have a very nice day, and thank you very much for your participation. So the webinar is completed. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.